Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and welcome to Noob Tips for Overwatch. Today we're going to be talking about getting on the damn point, when you should get on the point, and all of the things you should consider when deciding whether or not to actually get on the damn point. Now I say this because, as anyone who has already been playing Overwatch probably knows, and as those of you who are going to be playing Overwatch will soon find out, there's always going to be that one person on your team when you happen to lose a round or a match who says, damn it, everyone would just get on the point and stop roaming, we would have won. Well, I'm going to arm you with the information to, number one, make sure that you always do your best to actually get on the point, because there are instances where that person's advice, despite how rudely it was delivered, is probably correct. But there are also instances where there was a lot of other things to take into consideration. Chances are your team was getting on the point and you were simply outplayed, or perhaps your team wasn't taking into consideration enough factors when deciding how and when they got on the point, either as individuals or as a team. And then you can rightfully say to that person, you know what, we were on the point, just really not when it mattered. Have a good day. So let's go ahead and move forward. Now there are three game modes that exist in Overwatch. We have Control, we have Assault, and we have Escort. They all have their own sort of spin, and there's always an attacking team and a defending team. So you're going to need to take what we talk about today and then apply it to those three different game modes. But at the end of the day, it's all really straightforward. There's just a few things you need to take into consideration, a few parameters you need to consider before you actually go and get on the point. The first thing I want to say, sort of a general rule of thumb, is that it's always better to capture or defend a point as a team. If at all possible, getting to a point as a team is the best way to do it. And if that means waiting just a fraction of a second, or maybe even 5 seconds if you have the time, as we'll talk about in a moment, to get your team together, chances are that's the better decision. Because you know what's the worst possible thing you can do? Gladiator it. What I mean by gladiator it is send one player after another to their demise. One guy gets killed by the lions, one guy gets killed by the tigers, one guy gets carried by the bears. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. That is not the way to win Overwatch. In fact, dying as a team is in most instances a sign that you are playing better than you would have been if you died alone. So that's something to take into consideration. If you can get together as a team, if it's feasible and you're not going to lose the match because you were waiting for the rest of your team, do it. You're going to perform better as a team. Now there are of course situations where you don't have that luxury. You have to get on the damn point. The enemy's about to capture B or A in a game mode like Assault, and they're going to win the game. The enemy's about to reach 100% in a game mode like Control, or they're about to escort the VIP, to the final position. In which case, you really need to do whatever you can to contest that point, to prevent that car from reaching its destination, and to prevent the team from reaching 100%. That sometimes means suicide. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, there are situations where you can contest a point for just enough time for your team to be able to make a difference after that. If you're the person at the front lines and the enemy team is about to win, the last thing you want to do is just stand there and watch them win. Because you know what? If they're going to win anyways, you might as well go in and die. You might as well go out in a blaze of glory, take that risk, and potentially bring the win back for your team. Doesn't matter if you're McCree, doesn't matter if you're Reinhardt, if you're tanky or squishy. If you know a way, and if you see the opportunity to get onto the point and contest it and prevent the team from winning, do it. Do it, do it. In that situation where it's life or death, go for it. Risk it all. It's totally worth it in that instance. You never know what could happen. Now, we have to talk about the other element of being alone and trying to take an objective. As I said, it's almost always better to work as a team. So if you're alone and you're playing as McCree and the other team is only at 20% in something like Control, does it really make sense to roll into the capture point when there's 5 members of the enemy team there and try and take it back like it's Call of Duty in the Wild Wild West? No, it doesn't. You may take out 1 or 2 people if you're really good or really lucky, but at the end of the day, you're just gonna die. And then where are you gonna be? Back at the respawn. And again, the cycle starts all over again. Now your team's there and you're not there. You wanna do everything in your power as a team and as an individual to be on the battlefield at the same time you know, for as much of the time as that's possible. I know you're not always going to be able to do that, but as much as you possibly can. That's a really important thought process to have in your head. So always take that into consideration when deciding whether or not to get on the point. Now, as I mentioned, things are going to change a little bit. If you're attacking, things are going to be slightly different. If you're defending, things are going to be slightly different. But the three real core ideas that we've talked about today are what matter most. Group up as much as you possibly can. If it's down to the wire, go ahead and just go for it. If you have the time, wait for your team. Never go in alone. Even as someone like Reinhardt, it doesn't make sense to push for an objective that is only 20% captured by the enemy team alone against 5 players. Yeah, Reinhardt's a tank. Yeah, Roadhog's a tank, but they're not invincible. And 5 people are going to shred them. Actually, McCree can shred Reinhardt if he's good enough, if he gets in the right position. One person can kill you. That's the balancing. That's the beauty of Overwatch, is that, yes, certain heroes work better in certain situations, but there are also a lot of heroes that are sort of the the sort of antidote to that hero. And just because you're a big tanky guy doesn't mean there aren't people who can absolutely annihilate you. So you have to remember that. And that's why it doesn't make sense, even as a tanky character, to rush an objective if you have the time. So really, what question should you ask yourself when you're about to get on the damn objective? Let's lay that out. Let's make it really easy for you guys. Number 1, could I possibly wait for my team and get on the objective? Number 2, how much time is actually left? Do I have enough time to wait for my team, or do I really need to do everything in my power to contest or prevent the enemy team from winning, even if it means dying and losing anyways? Number 3, do we have the time? Regardless of the situation, alone or with the group, do we have the time? Because that question right there is going to influence so many different situations in how you decide to execute your plan in those situations. That's it, guys. It's really all as simple as that. But then again, it's not. It's a matter of understanding these ideas and then putting them to the test. And to be honest, this is just my opinion. I'm one guy with one set of experiences. The more you play, the more you interact with other players, the more you're going to get an understanding of when it makes sense to get on the point, and hopefully you'll be positive in communicating that to your teammates and to other people you play with. Because you know what? No one learns anything from the guy who waits until your team has already lost a round, or even worse, a match, to tell everyone they should have got on the point. If you really think people need to be on the point, or if you need to group up, let people know. I mean, there are emotes within Overwatch that allow you to do all of these things without actually saying a word over the microphone or typing a word on your keyboard. You can tell people to get on the point. Just hit F while looking at the objective. It'll let everyone know, hey, I think we should get on the point. There's a group up emote. You're playing someone like Reinhardt. You want your team to group up. Okay, go ahead and group up. Wait for your team. Make the push. There are a million different ways to communicate with your team in Overwatch. Make use of them. Stay positive. Spread the positivity. Teach the positivity, and hopefully, in the end of the day, win and prosper because of it. If you have any other questions for me regarding getting on the damn point, feel free to throw them down in the comments section below. Honestly, if there's anything I didn't make clear enough for you that you want me to break down or better explain to you, I will be more than happy to do that. Anything to help people enjoy Overwatch just a little bit more, whether they're playing with friends or whether they're playing with a group of randoms. Anything else for me? Throw it down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.